Hello and welcome to our
Oh,
first live stream episode. So, forgive us any technical issues. We are testing this out for the future as we get hopefully larger and larger with content and better material as well. I am joined here by Shepherd and Southhound here today. We are all living the dream right now with everything going on in the world. Um, what can you do with everything? But media never
I'm
stops.
essential.
Yes, me too. You're essential in my heart. You're essential in my heart.
Oh,
the gift of love. Oh, joy.
There's the news never really stops. Obviously now, movies aren't coming out right now. There's a lot of things on delay, a lot of things going to push out. But certain franchises have still found ways to disappoint. And two of those we're going to talk about today is Star Wars and Doctor Who. Oh man, Shepard shared with me something that Nerdrotic had pulled up, and he kind of did a compilation of comments from the current showrunners and writers, and they're doing like this watch together stream, and wow, the comments.
they were doing viewing parties for Doctor Who, but apparently then a part of some of them they've been adding little prologues or epilogues in kind of these still animation style. I guess it's kind of like just like that still frame and then voiceover for it to destroy then stories from prior Doctors, because Jodie Whittaker just needs to now she just needs to fix all the other ones.
She's not even in it. Like the show that even she's not even cares enough to be part of the voiceover part.
Yeah, that she couldn't do the voiceover.
Shows how bad. And you know what? Good. It just decanonizes it. It takes away the canon element theoretically of it, because the commentary on it is so nonsensical. Specifically the one where in the 2-part series or episode with Tennant, the David Tennant Doctor, Family and Blood. They're talking about he essentially imprisons all the different family members, and in this they undo it and say it wasn't justified, and I'm like, what? And then like said the comments from the people behind saying, oh, there's no Doctor Who canon. Canon doesn't matter. It's too complicated for canon. Again, this is the same Star Wars thing where canon exists. What canon is allows you to have story structure and backstory and make motivation for your characters and where your characters have been. It's history. Yes, when you have fictional characters, there are going to be elements that get tweaked and massaged because they don't work as well later on, or you need to adjust it. But it's a difference between a element being like, oh, this is questionable, and being like, just throw it all out and say it doesn't matter, because that's what they're saying. Is they're like, we're just throwing all canon out because it's inconvenient for us, and if you don't like it, they're reversing it on you, going, oh well, it means our story, which breaks canon, is inconvenient for you, and you're like, no, you can't. It's almost like that, well, if you didn't dress provocatively, you wouldn't have a problem with people being rude to you as a male or female. And the question is going, no, that's not how that works. You should be able to essentially dress how you like within reason of, where you are, right? You can't, but in the sense of,
I don't know if
you
that's
also can't stop. You also can't stop people from saying whatever comments they're going to make. I mean, that's
well, I know I'm talking about
there's that mixed
comments too. I'm saying actions.
Right. Oh, actions. Gotcha.
Yeah, justifying stuff. And I feel like in this setting that they're being like, oh, well, we can do whatever we want, and then you should have, as the fan, should have no reaction. And it's like, of course there's going to be a reaction. You have literally spit in the face of history.
There's a part where canon sort of becomes, in the term of like theater, the setting. That's that's your time period. So it's like sometimes canon becomes those, like, not always, but it's like it's built a world. There's elements already there, and that's kind of a setting. So you're placing your characters back into something that's already known, and then to say, well, everything that's happened before is, like you're saying, is inconvenient, so let me break it. It'd be like saying, the setting of Star Trek is supposed to be, at Earth, and they go, well, that's inconvenient. I made it over in, planet Zenith.
Like, right.
You mean Khan flying from one part of the universe to the other with a transporter the size of a
Yeah.
find a case,
Well, yeah,
that kind of silliness.
but I'm just saying it's like for people to say, oh, canon's too hard to do. It's like, but that's pretty much saying you can't follow the setting, you can't follow the
it's a
history,
total
you can't
cop out.
follow.
It's a total cop out
You
from the
know,
writers and producers. It is like a person saying I can't to a teacher or someone,
Yes.
and then being excused because they give a really terrible reason, and it's really bizarre to me that it's allowed to be
the way you
said.
taught me, it doesn't make sense for my version of reality, because my version of reality 2 + 2 = 5. Okay, you can leave the class.
Right.
Yeah, you're
and the
right. You're
worst
right.
part is
And it's like,
this is
no,
the guy
you're
who
wrong.
wrote. Well, and the bizarre thing is this is the guy who wrote the blood one, the episode, the Family of Blood. The
That
guy's
Peter Cornell.
Yeah, he's
Or
he's
Paul
the guy.
Cornell?
He's the guy who wrote that episode,
Gosh,
and it just shows that
that's
these
even
guys
worse.
have gotten crazy.
Well, I think that shows a perfect example. What you just pointed out. These people don't care about craft necessarily. It's just whatever's most convenient at the moment. These people are on the shoulders of better writers, and maybe they get a one-off and they do a good job, but they don't see any value in actual in the stories that they created or the environment that's been made by other people as they come through. And to them, they already get the paycheck, they already get the money, and they're pretty well entrenched where they clearly do not worry about the product that they produce because they know they're still going to get paid and make money. And this is the difference between, say, in the Disney world, on the artistic side, and the people who actually want money on the Disney World side. There seems to be now that power struggle where the artists are saying, well, we don't care what we do to your property because we only care about the agenda. You've already paid us. We're already out the door, and or we're in contract. What we do to the IP sucks to be you. And that's kind of the same thing we're seeing here in the BBC side, is unlike in the Star Wars side where it was like, hey, if you just don't like where we went with this next generation, you can leave. These guys first started with, oh, this doesn't break canon. It's brilliant. They realized what a short argument that was, and they couldn't really sustain it, even amongst people who support what they did. So then their next argument was, okay, just kidding. Canon is irrelevant.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Let me just remove the goalpost because I
degradation.
can't score.
Right. Well, that's the problem.
That's
the problem.
It's all about participation.
And like I said, just the quotes they were putting in there, and even what they were saying, and it just was infuriatingly dumb with what they've retconned in the Doctor Who.
I mean,
that was the worst part.
It's dead.
That was actually the worst part of the retcon, in my opinion. It wasn't just an issue of I don't like where they went with this. The execution of all these things are just objectively bad. Even if you could, even just saying, okay, I don't like the agenda, but the storyline was good, right? That's kind of Star Trek, right? For us, well, at least for me personally, there's a lot of agenda that I don't like, but I can still enjoy a story. I can say this was well written. I can say the acting was well done. Listening to that 5-minute epilogue snippet was painful. I mean, it was young adult writing. It was so bad. You were like,
that's an insult to young adults.
It was.
That's true.
I mean, well, the worst part about it is like it was just so dripping with hatred for the prior doctors, and pretty much like, I mean, like that's the worst part, because it was like, because it's like, I mean, like the way that she says it's like, oh, I realized that there was illnesses from myself that I'm going to fix from my prior regenerations, and it's like, okay,
well, like I said, contempt's one thing. We know that, but at least do it well. You know, if you're going to spit on my face, at least make it tasty. There's no reason to make it so poorly done where it's like, first, right? I know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, come on. Well, you've insulted yourself. It was like a dry heave. It's like, and instead of just let it really come out.
Well, considering we already had a storyline where older doctors didn't agree with a prior doctor's decision and they've been dealing with it, that was called the 50th anniversary. And that was done well.
Yes, the 50th.
And then you come to this and they go, she's like, you know what? I don't know why I put you in that mirror. That was really, I mean, the worst part is the girl in the girl in the mirror is like, I'm not sorry. I will never be sorry. Pretty much flips her the bird. And then the doctor goes, do you know what mercy is? It's not about being fair.
No, she murdered a child.
Away fairness. I mean, she says, she's like, I'm going to murder again. She's like, no, you're not going to murder again because I'm just going to send you back to your planet, but you're not going to live that long to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
What?
It's
get out of
nonsensical.
here with it. I mean, it was like I said in the text message. Oh, good. Now we don't have the Time Lord Victorious in David Tennant. We have the Time Lord Virtuous Signalist
I thought
in
that was pretty
Jodie
funny.
Foster. Because I mean, she's just now the virtue
Yeah.
signaling doctor. That's all she is. That's all it's about.
Well-
I mean, the worst part is like even the way that the woman was saying, like the girl in the mirror was saying how she's prejudiced against, and I'll leave it at that.
Right.
I mean, like
Well, I
that
think
was like half of
Westfox
the
made
comment was itself.
I think Westfox made the best point. It's astonishing how someone could have written that story originally, and it's probably, I would say, probably one of the top tier episodes
It was
for David Tennant, particularly the end. You know, the first one's kind of your general Doctor Who. It's very nice, but it's literally those final like 4 minutes of Doctor Who judgment that really brings that entire thing
The Fury of
to
the Time Lord part.
another
Yeah.
level.
Mhm.
And it just shows you how far you can fall if you actually don't care enough and you don't dedicate yourself to your craft. You fall down to generic writing high school level 101, and it shows.
You know, and it's so weird because usually artists really care about their work, and I do put writing into the art, and it's really weird how, again, I really do feel like it's a disdain for the end user. You know, you don't see Apple out there going, we hate you with our products, but buy them anyway. Just deal with it. And the entertainment industry is the one industry where I feel like, not all, but, and I get it, you do have to deal with people who are crazy. I'm not going to deny there's not the crazy fans out there.
Oh, of course.
But
there's going to be fans who are never happy about anything.
Right. What we're dealing with now is not the Clara, right? Because like I said, I know you guys don't like Clara. I relatively enjoyed her until the end with Capaldi, more than probably most people. But that's a taste thing, right? There's a level, okay, cool. There's a taste thing. And where she suffered was the writing in the end, with her character not making sense and choices being made and what she was allowed to not
in the beginning, she was fine.
Yeah.
It was only when she became the savior of the Doctor that I was like,
I was okay with that one.
Jumping the shark.
Later on. But what I'm saying is, like, how do you deal with this point where now it's not the choices they're making that are like, oh, that's questionable. They're literally designed to give, in my opinion, the people a middle finger, and I have evidence of that, in the sense of, you know, we'll kind of segue over to Star Trek, where you have the producers or showrunners pretty much say, you know, things like, oh, well, they didn't swear in the other ones because they weren't allowed to swear on TV. That's why they didn't swear. And you're like, no, you can go back to the old movies where Kirk is like, double dumbass on you, because he didn't know how to swear.
I was
colorful metaphors. And you're like,
I'll go further back. I'll actually go further back because I was watching some TOS with my girlfriend, and we were watching Mudd's Women, so with you know, Harry Mudd, and in one of the moments, Kirk and Scotty both call him a jackass. They go, that jackass destroyed our lithium crystals, and I kind of actually went back and went, oh shoot, they actually said that, but I was like, I didn't realize they said that. So in the 70s, or what, the 67, they used jackass. So there goes your argument already out the window before the movies.
Well, and I mean, again, it's that thing.
And there's a difference also between calling someone a donkey and saying someone is a mother fornicator, or
I don't. I think the issue is they went out of their way to be crass. They went out of their way to inject unnatural dialogue to the universe that they were existing in, merely for the sake of, this is real shock and this value. Is dark.
Oh, it's totally shock
and it
value.
just showcases their lack of IQ. I mean, there is a reason why.
Well, it's not IQ, it's research. It's their inability to, I mean, I don't want to say it's lack of, because I feel like the name calling, let's say fallacy-wise, logically, in an argument fallacy-wise. I'm not going to say they're unintelligent. It's they're unwilling, in my opinion, to do the research and go, oh, how does, because we know other franchises go like frack, right? They're like frack instead of saying
for Battlestar.
Battlestar. And I think Farscape had had something to
Hezbollah.
Yotes.
I think it's Hezbollah. Well, I think Yotes is kind of the happy one.
I thought Yotes was.
Hezbollah is kind of the Like,
yeah, why don't I did? If they
I'll
want
there was
throw
one of them.
yours.
I remember.
they want some
Yeah,
swear
one of
words,
those
throw some Klingon swear words into it, into
Right.
the canon. Be like, yeah, Klingon swear words. They're freaking hilarious. You're like,
Right, you just say
There's
something because
Romulans
it's
all around.
funny.
Why don't you use a Romulan bad word?
right? Because that's why we love, like, always love bloody, right? It's like the British swear word, and like bloody hell,
Right,
like,
exactly,
so I feel
bloody
like,
hell.
why can't they have that for like the something like the Klingon version or something like that? But no, it has
Well,
to
when
be
I'm
the
saying
most
they're
Well, I don't know. I think
When I say they're
what is
low
it, Batak?
IQ, I don't mean
They
they're
call people Batak and
stupid.
Klingons.
Oh, you guys are talking
so,
to each other.
Sorry.
Yeah, I stopped. No, you're fine.
Well, I was gonna say.
No, I was just
gonna
saying-
say the Klingon word is usually Batak.
Ah, yeah,
I think that's the bad one. It's like, oh,
Right,
Batak.
which is
It's like,
that's like I think that's the
"Ooh, man,
equivalent of an illegitimate son, as I recall.
I
think that was
so.
kind of
that
the
is pretty much
yes,
the comment.
I think so.
Yeah.
yeah. But when I say the IQ, I don't mean that they're necessarily unintelligent people. I mean they intentionally, actively go through these things without having to use their brains. They don't want to. The least amount of work they have to apply themselves to get their paycheck seems to be the cause du jour in this time period. And
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's
so
probably why
weird.
you talk about people's art no longer caring about it. I don't want to say it's got too corporate because I'm a huge fan of capitalism. It's removed itself from the need to be skilled to make money, or the need to be it's removed itself from the need to be very talented and skilled and to love your craft to be successful. You have these people who get jobs who do not care about what they're producing. They jump from IP to IP to IP to IP in these worlds, and they just get paid when they don't produce anything worthwhile.
And perfect segue that goes right into our next kind of general topic, where in Star Wars we have mismanagement, right? In the end, if there's one
Mismanagement.
thing,
That's
there's
sugarcoating it.
No, I think it's accurate,
The operative
though.
word of the operative syllable of that being miss.
If if you were to describe the current Star Wars stuff
Because they're not
situation, it's definitely mismanagement. Because the reason it undeniably is look at how many people have been fired. How many directors have been rebooted? I mean, they were about ready to start filming Obi-Wan Kenobi. They had things ready to film. They were about ready to roll cameras. And they're like, oh, nope, we can't because the script sucks. The script should be the first thing that you're... Well,
it might have been because it wasn't very good. For all we know,
it sounds like it was a rehash of what had already been other material. And again,
Well,
does that
true.
surprise? And again, mismanagement. How would it? Regardless of whatever it is a mismanagement decision. Like
sure.
Regardless of what it is, it comes down to mismanagement. This allowing to. I mean, right now, we have. If let me know if I'm missing any shows right now. We have the Cassian Andor series. We have the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. We have theoretically the Rian Johnson trilogy. We have this new one with the this new lady.
Takiki.
No, well,
the other
Henley.
Yeah, the
Headley.
Weinstein's secretary.
Well, she's
Personal assistant. Personal assistant. I'm just saying that makes it even worse.
Well, here you go. And
Right.
You have all these shows that are developing and going, are they really going to make these? They keep talking at this High Republic shows, and you're like, what are they going to do with these ones? I mean, they buried. I doubt that one from Headland will ever actually be made, due to the fact that they're going to bury it in here. They have so much time to bury this stuff. I think that whole leak thing was designed to try to force Disney's hand. And I think in the long run, with all the financial hit Disney's taking, which we'll learn about tomorrow, because tomorrow is their Q2 earnings call. And I'm sure.
Oh, yes. I can't wait for that.
There's some interesting data.
I'm looking forward to the jig, the dance scene. It's going to be like, dance, boy, dance. Then we're going to shoot in the ground. And he's going to be like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. It's all good here.
There's a reason Bob Iger is no longer CEO.
I'm telling you, he's smarter than people think. He's smarter than people think.
Oh, he knew what was coming.
He saw the handwriting on the wall, and he's like, "Hey, Bob, do you want to be CEO?" He's like, "Yeah, I've been wanting to do that forever." You know what?
Let me bring you.
I got my fourth house. Why don't you come on in?
Today.
Why
don't you start today?
Do it today. Yeah, start today.
I mean, literally, they're like, no one knew it was happening when it happened. They're like, yeah, it happened, and then everyone's like,
I had my executive assistant make you a name tag and a little thing for your desk. You're set.
It's the Picard triple. No, was it Picard quadruple take?
Quadruple take?
Yeah.
Oh, if only that
Those
same
buns
Patrick
are
Stewart
delicious.
existed. He seems to have disappeared. That was his final greatest moment.
But so I mean that's what you got. All these shows. Are they really gonna make these at
Buns are the best.
At $150 million a pop for these shows? Are they really gonna be making these at that cost with Disney Plus?
I don't buy it.
Nope. And the only thing I'll say, I don't with Taika Waititi taking over or getting a Star Wars movie. It goes into what Southtown was saying, or about so much of the same people. The one thing I'll say that I think is it's two levels of what I see happening. So we see this I need to do some more research on it because it seems like some companies are going to start buying each other up here, probably in the near future. Possibly Apple buying up some other things, Netflix buying some stuff.
This will be interesting.
Who knows who's going to buy who? But it looks like people are going to start buying each other out. So we're going to have even more consolidation of these companies. And what you're seeing is these same directors, the same actors play all these roles, particularly Disney. You're like, oh, it's another one with Chris Hemsworth. Oh, it's another movie with this actor. And it's like, man, one of the things that was so great about Lord of the Rings was, yes, there was some legacy actors in there, but there was a lot of fresh faces in that. People that didn't do that felt fresh.
Yeah.
And now imagine if we saw those same actors in 10 different movies now, and you're like, oh my God, it's just boring. There's a staleness to all the material now you're seeing, and you're seeing the same actors, the same directors. Taika Waititi's going to go from Thor: Love and Thunder straight to Star Wars, and it's like, I'm not a huge fan of his sense of humor even.
No, well, here's and that's one big fear from him. It's like I know Southtown, you didn't really care as much for Ragnarok, and I think Ragnarok was Waititi as well.
It was.
It was.
There's a little bit of slapstick humor that I enjoy that I think Marvel's been able to somewhat do. That kind of humor has no place in Star Wars, and he's going to try to bring that slapstick
Rian Johnson
campy humor, and it's going to be bad. And because it's like, I mean, that's what it looks. I mean, like even what he just won for, wasn't it Jojo Rabbit? Again, was supposed to be something kind of like, it was the one about the kid who's a Nazi youth.
Yeah, literally. That's literally what.
Like
it was.
literally a Nazi youth and whatever the story is. But that was still funny, I guess, is the point of it. But it's like, so he likes doing humor, but it's always that campy slapstick seems kind of humor. Like I said, I didn't mind it so much for Thor Ragnarok just because the prior two Thors were so horrible bad. And how pathetically serious they thought they were trying to be.
The second one was the worst of
the second one was bad. Trash. I mean, the first one was kind of like a lackluster origin story, and they could have done it better. Then they got to the second one. And you're like, oh, why don't you just call this Jane Foster instead of Thor?
Oh, that movie was just so nonsensical. It was
I don't think Waititi's talented. Period. Campy jokes alone. I just don't think he actually has the. I think he's a B-level director at best. I don't really think he has the chops to perform anything, and he covers that up with, well, if you don't like the campy gags, it's just a taste difference between you and me. And it's like, no, not really. It's actually a quality difference. Now, granted, he's not competing against the people who are.
I think what it comes down to is always if that's the only trick in your basket and you try to say, oh, well, it's just a thing. It's like, no, because you haven't shown me that you can do anything else.
That I'll agree with.
And I think that's where it comes down to. It's like, I've never seen you try to do serious. So you keep saying, well, it's just a style thing. It's like, but can you do anything else? Or,
yes, that's
or it's like someone singing rock songs and they sing in an opera and they go, well, it's just kind of a style thing. You don't like my style. It's like, well, you're singing a rock song as opera.
Right. Philip, you saw the last episode of Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I saw the whole series. Yes, sucked. The whole show is not very good.
Well, I know you didn't like the show
in general.
I know you didn't like the show, but the last episode was him.
Because Waititi directed the last episode.
Yeah,
was there a lot of slapstick? Was there a lot of slapstick?
Oh my gosh, it made Rian Johnson look like he was doing a period piece of seriousness. I mean, it was not amusing at all.
I
don't know, because there was the one part that I did find partially amusing was the two scout troopers kind of trying to shoot something and they were both missing. I mean, it's bad when you look at it.
Wait, sorry. That was real? I thought that was a meme.
That was real. No, that was real. That was them pretending to shoot it.
Legit.
Yeah, that was real.
Ha ha ha! Look, I'm poking fun, and it was like, no, it's.
I thought that was.
You're stupid.
I thought that was someone filming like a meme, like a parody.
Because it was actually Jason Sudeikis. It was Jason Sudeikis who was actually that trooper, and then that's why then they have him. Then they have him punch the yodeling because it keeps whining.
I know.
Just shut it up.
I know it's hard that it's hard to compare some of these directors because there's no one out there that you could consider as a top tier director. I'm not saying that
Nolan.
one's perfect.
Christopher
Sometimes
Nolan.
you direct.
Nolan, yeah.
Nolan. I think Nolan's one of the few.
Okay, I will say he tries. He's very he at least gives the effort to make quality stuff. Okay,
I'm not saying all his movies
That's
are the
fine.
best. I'm not
Sure.
I'm not a stan for him, but I would say
Sure.
like he has a good track record between The Dark Knight, because the first two Batman movies were amazing, and third
We're
one
really good.
not
The
great.
third one was terrible.
Inception is still one of my probably in my top
I
10 all time favorite
thoroughly
movies.
enjoyed that movie. I agree.
But it's
1917 was really good. I enjoyed it.
That wasn't
Was
him.
that him?
No, it wasn't him.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, it was.
thinking you're thinking Dunkirk, not Dunkirk.
You're thinking Dunkirk?
Dunkirk?
Was that
Dunkirk.
Dunkirk? that he did?
Dunkirk was him.
Yeah.
1970 was this one. Who actually, the girl who is helping, thinking of that,
Isn't it that
Taika
Christy
Waititi
Wilson?
is helping screenwrite, which is kind of interesting because that means she has some experience working on more serious material, because 1917 was not a slapstick on any level. So maybe she has a more serious palette tone. The one good thing that I'll say that
Okay.
I am glad
It was
to see
Dunkirk.
with Taika not being on or doing these is it essentially permanently pulls him off Akira, because he was the kind of director tied to it, loosely tied to the Akira movie, which is I don't think Philip probably knows, is a Japanese anime movie from the early mid to 1990s. And
Well, that means you guys are going to be saved a trashy movie.
well, and it's a movie that is, it's essentially a superhero villain origin story, if that
Right.
makes sense. On a certain level, it's a lot more complicated and thought. It's very much. I'm afraid they're going to do the Ghost in the Shell treatment to it in the end, and it is a
Name
movie
only.
it deserves work and effort put into it, and not just lip service with slapping the name Akira to it,
Sure.
without justifying them as source material, because it is
Right.
legitimately.
But I think you just proved my
complicated source
point.
material.
I think you just proved my point. Okay, we'll put Nolan as an A tier. Everyone else is B and C, and I don't see why TD being in there as a strong force for good. I would say his movies at best are threes. They're typically very, very campy, and everything he's produced has been nothing to take home to mama. Let's put it that way.
I think that Thor Ragnarok was okay. Like I laughed in it, but at the end,
No, I
I
just
didn't
said.
love it. And well,
Didn't I just say three?
Well, the one that's going to be interesting to see with him will be Thor: Love and Thunder, because
It's gonna be trash, dude.
It's gonna
Come
be horrible
on,
just
you
because-
know it's gonna be
What-
terrible. You
I'm
know
sorry.
it.
What they're going for in the storyline,
Oh.
it's already set itself up for failure.
with what
is
they're
the problem
saying
for
it's
that
going
one.
to be is, I'm not saying it can't be done, right? You got to see the end product before we completely judge it. But
No, I don't. Track
Okay,
record
well-
is all I need.
well, I'm more
Joel-
objective than you, so
Westfox,
on that part-
the saying is judge
No,
a book by
you're
its
more-
cover. It says
you're more
nothing
hopeful.
about judging
Your
a movie by
optimism
its
is-
trailer.
Your
Yes.
optimism is based off of nothing. You're less subjective. You're like, well, I hope that it's better. All of his movies are like this, and yet you're like, oh, don't worry, he's
Oh,
gonna
I'm not-
bounce back up.
I'm not saying it's going to be great. I'm just saying I got to see it before I judge it. But that will give us an idea of what, let's say, the Star Wars movie would be. Again, and there's so many of these things that are putting in there. And
if
interesting
it
thing
even
that-
goes forward, if it even
If it-
goes
well,
forward.
I was going
to-
to add in there,
to
'cause
me,
there's two other movies they're talking about. There's also the Kevin Feige movie that he was supposed to have. And
right.
I think there was
Significantly more
also-
likely to happen.
And also, I think there was one that was talking about having, is it Favreau? A Favreau Star Wars movie, right?
Less likely to
That's one I
happen.
could actually look into.
So I feel
Probably,
like,
I would say that's probably the least likely.
well, and it goes back to my original premise.
Sadly.
The problem with Star Wars, Marvel right now, not Marvel, sorry, Disney Star Wars is management. There's no actual plan. Why would you not do the Obi-Wan series? You have the actor who wants to do it, who is like the perfect age.
you have
now
the
to do
fan
it.
base who wants to see the actor do it.
Yes,
I mean, if you're
No.
talking about one
Okay,
show that
come on.
actually has
Who
some
wants to
fan base
see that
behind it.
show is this big. You could fit how many
No,
people
it's
actually want to see
bigger.
that show in a thimble.
No, there's a lot
It's
more
bigger.
people.
Yeah,
There's a lot
it's
more
bigger.
people who want to see Obi-Wan's storyline than almost any other storyline or anything they're
Yeah,
talking about.
Okay, let me ask you this: who cares about casting and/or story?
Nope.
Who cares about an Obi-Wan story?
I don't.
So right there, well, that's fine. You don't care most of the stories. That's fine. That's. I mean, in the end,
Because they're
I
going to ruin his character.
Oh,
It's
I'm
going to
not
be
saying it's gonna
awful.
be
We're not saying what the product's going to be. We were saying that if there was one product that I think there was at least more people who would like to see actually started, it was the Obi-Wan series or a movie. More people were excited about that than anything else. Even when the new trilogy was coming out, there's more people going, I would love to see an Obi-Wan movie more than I care about seeing Rise of the Skywalker.
Well, those people should be thankful that it never happened. We only need one Jake Skywalker. We don't need a Jake Kenobi either, you know?
Oh, poor Obi-Wan. Oh, poor.
Man. It'd be Odie. It'd be Odie, nah.
Kenobi, I mean, let's be honest. The prequels did a little bit of damage. The prequels did a little damage to Obi-Wan. Not a great amount, but there was a little damage done to Obi-Wan.
I think he's the only one that honestly comes out unscathed out of the prequels.
I think Obi-Wan
truly
is. Yeah, I think Obi-Wan
unscathed?
comes out. Oh, I think he
I don't think unscathed. Not unscathed.
I think Obi-Wan comes I personally think he becomes. I'd say the only. No,
I think they make him. They make him too tentative, and I think that the way that they made him not kill Vader, there would have been a far better way to keep them separated, where he wouldn't have finished his task. I think leaving him there.
So you're going to base it all on that last little point because he doesn't completely kill him there. That's what you're saying.
He's super duper whiny in the first one too. Let's be honest, which I don't see in his.
When he's a young Padawan. Wait, I'm sorry. When he's a Padawan, he's got. You're going to say he's whiny? Yeah, I wonder why when he's a Padawan and his master dies.
Realistic characteristics that people can have and be young in that doesn't require baseline. Oh, it's the Rodney McKay of the movie, and then to make them increase. You don't have to start them at that low.
Without going too far down that rabbit hole, I will say the prequel execution is lacking. At least
completely
a story, but I will still agree. I will state that I do think that Obi-Wan did come out of there the best of all the characters in the end.
Oh, yes, the best. I just said not unscathed. I said a little bit of damage. I didn't say they ruined his character. I mean, this wasn't Darth Vader. Darth Vader gets shoveled under the dirt, right?
Vader's.
I will include, and I do include the cartoons with. Granted, if you're maybe if you're saying only the movies, I would say maybe you're more justified in saying he comes out with a slight bruising. But I believe that through all the peripherals, I still think Obi-Wan comes out awesome.
The Clone Wars TV series does him a lot of justice to make sure his character stays. I know you don't like the Clone Wars, Phil, but guess what? There's certain characters there whose development is given a good job in the show. I'm sorry
so
that you want to disagree with it all the time.
But
you think everything's boring. I know but sometimes it's like
it was a good cartoon. You know, it was a great cartoon in between 2 and 3. That was a quality level cartoon.
The Tentacles in 2003 one. Yeah, I totally agree. And Obi-Wan was very well done in that one.
And you apply that to the Clone Wars, and it freaking is miles ahead of the Clone Wars series.
In certain things, they're not even close. In other things, I disagree with you. Like I said, they did a lot of good job of actually strengthening a lot of the characters that the prequel movies hurt a little bit and gave it. Like I said, I think I have to agree with Westfox. Since I watch the Clone Wars series, I find that I feel that Obi-Wan is far more a strong character and will always come off a lot better than everyone else. I mean, because it's even hard to say at this point to say for like Luke Skywalker is a damaged character more than Obi-Wan will ever be.
Damaged? He's buried. He's dead.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that unfortunately,
like that's what I'm saying. Though it's like Obi-Wan's the only one that really. So I do agree with you in that sense, Southhound, that he's the one character that might have had a little bruising, and I would hate to see the one still kind of good character to get destroyed in a series. But again, what I'm saying is the fan base wanted that product more than they care about Cassian Andor. Yeah,
that is the original premise, which is one was the most excited about, and it was Obi-Wan.
Hopefully they've learned their lesson and they've seen enough destroyed people to say, you know what, let's not ruin Obi-Wan Kenobi.
They guarantee
that was ever going to be in their consideration.
That's the problem. No, the fans don't want a lesson. That's the problem. Is that you have people. There's a percentage of fans who are the stands, right? They call them stands, and they'll
no matter what comes out, as long as that's Star Wars on there,
and they're there. And it's one of those ones where they have put their identity into it, so they have to like it no matter what it is. they kind of adapt to whatever they're given. You know, they're like, oh, it's cool. I used to eat like lobster and crab and sushi on a thing, and it was prepared by a professional chef who did, and now I get dog food. And they're like, well, it's better than nothing. And you're like, is it? But
like,
is it better than nothing? You know,
Right.
and so that's kind of where I think that unfortunately there's a percentage of people like that who defend this stuff no matter what. I mean, and it's okay to come with a logical, rational reason why you like it, or you can say, "Hey, I just like it. I know it's trash. At least admit it's trash, right?" I mean, there's always those movies, or like we've said, there are shows and movies that we watch or you like, and you're like, "Yeah, it's trash, but I like it." I mean, there's always been those ones, and then
I can't
there's
think
ones
of
that
one.
there was something I used as an example a while ago, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." But there's also ones that are objectively good. Like I said, I rewatched Indiana Jones recently, 1 and 3, and I was like, man,
Brilliant.
episode 1, you don't even see like you know, Indiana Jones' face for the first like 2 minutes of the movie. He's always in the shadows, and you get this guy's follow him and stuff, and it's like silhouettes, and it's just freaking great. And you know, you can see a little bit of the age and the filming technique for that. That was early '80s, but
Sure.
The Last Crusade, that movie holds up now, 30 years
It's
later.
timeless.
Ah,
Timeless.
that is so good. And you know, you see that kind of stuff is not what's going to be said of these new movies now. You know, you watch, they're not, you know,
No,
they're just a mess. All these things.
I mean,
and what's happening here again, the management thing is just a giant mess. Why is there no one? I mean, again, Kathleen Kennedy most likely will be leaving Lucasfilm here next year. Her contract ends. You know, they extended it for that extra time. And well, you say that, but who knows who's replacing?
I know.
You
That's true.
You would hope that they find someone competent.
Ryan Johnson.
Who? Oh God. You know, find someone who has a creative vision, because Star Wars should print you money. It should literally be an infinite printing
It was a golden
press.
goose.
And
It was
through
the golden
incompetence,
goose. Like,
it lost that, and you're just like, no, it should not have happened. Like I said, it's the most profitable. It has the potential to be the most profitable thing, and I also think it's hilarious too, because you know, when the Last Jedi happened and all that stuff happened, and then you know Solo bombed, there, you know, even Bob Iger came out and said, well, you know, it's fatigue. It was quantity fatigue, and there was too many things at once, and that's why no one went and saw it. And now,
No, BS.
and I go, wait,
now they're trying to throw
Marvel
everything
has
at the
10
wall.
shows. Marvel has 10 shows and like 15 movies at that time, and there's no fatigue there. And then Disney has 2 movies come out. They're like, or 3 movies come out. And they're like, yep, fatigue. Yep, everyone's bored. And now they're going to come out with essentially 6 shows, theoretically. I use
Right.
hard
Yeah.
quotes, because nothing's going to happen anytime soon with with the coronavirus stuff happening. And with Disney, I mean, they just bought, I think they're $8 billion of debt they just pulled out. We're going to see what this quarterly report tomorrow is. They also just were downrated again by one of the banking, whatever, the financials. They just downgraded them again. I don't know all the names of that kind of stuff.
Oh, you're talking about their credit score? Yeah.
Yeah, they're
I think they
downgraded.
went down to single A for their scoring for their stocks right now. Either
So-
double A or single A.
Yeah, so they're having a lot of troubles. And so, again, these shows are supposed to go to Disney Plus, and the question is, are you going to drop $100 million?
Who's going to be
Is it
there?
worth it? Is it worth it?
Well,
Like,
I mean,
why
that's
not make
the
the
big
movies?
question too.
That's where it goes into. It's like, wait, why not just make a real? Again, they should have made the Star Wars movie should have done like this. That first one, The Rise of Skywalker, or sorry, The Force Awakens, it made what it should have made, about $2 billion. The Last Jedi should have made, in theory, well done, probably, 2.2,
2.5.
2.1. Yeah, somewhere in that
I think
range.
it could have made 2.5 if it was actually good.
Yeah, and then the
Gentlemen, I need to
and
plug
The
in my
Last
laptop
Jedi,
real fast. Give me a second.
that's fine. And The Last Jedi should have been a $3
$3 billion movie.
Yeah, it
Yep.
really should have.
Oh,
It
yeah.
had the
Absolutely should have
potential.
been.
If it had been done right, again, especially if they had done the character service with bringing them in correctly and like I said, had a real story, could have been so good.
Well, to bring
Go
you
ahead.
just a quick
Yeah.
piece, you made a good point. Is that the fact that the first movie made $2 billion and it really wasn't that good. But if to see a $700 million drop from your sales, I mean, a 35% decrease from one movie to the next, I understand why Bob Iger said it was saturation of the market, because that's just the PR spin.
Oh, 100%.
But what's really sad about that is that just goes to show you that in reality, they were really ticked off that happened. And they wanted to play the side that, okay, we don't want to badmouth anybody, at least in the press. But you realize that given the way that Rise of Skywalker came out, and the fact that there were so many reshoots, so much redone stuff, so many rumors, so much stuff, there were people there who care about money first who said, you guys better fix this because you just lost $700 million plus on this director who just ruined our IP. There are people who don't care about agenda, who care about the bottom line, and they were livid about that stuff.
Why do you think they keep asking about it in conference calls and no one answers?
Exactly. I can't believe these people still stick with them. I'd be like, you know what? You're not going to give me an honest answer? You're gone.
Well, and we'll see what
find another blue chip.
We'll see what answers are given tomorrow. So the next thing we're going to kind of move into, which is, it's kind of what in this world of IP changing dramatically, it comes a little bit into, well, who owns what, right? So we have, again, possible acquisitions of things. But the other, like studios owning the IP and properties and stuff. But the story that's interesting and disturbing to me on a more philosophical level is the Naughty Dog, the Last of Us 2, and not even the leak or the reason behind the leak or what's in the leak, because I don't care about that. I mean, I do care, but it's not going to be the conversation for today because it's a dumb conversation. Because
it happens, whatever. It's happened for the last.
It is what it is. If
5-6 years,
political,
right?
It's not. But the thing that's disturbing is the fact that Sony or people or Naughty Dog was going after people talking about the leak, not even showing what was in the leak, but knocking down people who were, or kind of going after this. And this isn't the first case. There was also the game Outlanders or something, where the guy had literally people come to his house and be like, we want your computer pretty much because you have stuff that we don't like you have. And that kind of stuff, where these companies, the intellectual property stuff, you have these corporate entities now becoming such a level that, YouTube and other things kind of kowtow to them and kind of allow them to affect the public dialogue, right? Could you imagine being, because again, yes, these companies, because a lot of times the argument is, oh, well, YouTube or Twitter, these companies are private companies and they can do whatever they want. On the first level, that's true. The problem is, but the problem is the second level, which they're actually given a lot of protections by the government because they're considered a platform. But now they're acting like publishers. They're not just, they're promoting stuff, they're kicking people off stuff based upon arbitrary standards. And they're allowing other companies to come in and censor what's said and allowed. That's what it is. I mean, in the end, it's censorship.
No, that's what it is. It's censorship. That's exactly what it is.
They're flagging things, but it's censorship with extra steps, right? This is a Rick and Morty, Rick and Morty.
Barely. There's not even extra steps. It's a phone call. Right? So, I mean, it's no different than the president of the United States calling New York Times and saying, hey, if you run that article, we'll pound you down. It's no different, right? It's Naughty Dog calling Susan Wojcicki and saying, hey.
Yeah. And so
shut them up. Shut them up. We need you to shut them up.
I honestly believe is probably one of the most concerning things in the space, which is they need to start, YouTube and these other things need to start behaving like platforms, right? They need to stop censoring everything. And there's a difference between, prawn and those kind of things, the adult entertainment being on the platform. Like, yes, we have a plus 18 material on here, but in the end, if it freaking came down to it, just put it behind a freaking paywall, not a paywall, but an age
18 or older wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, like freaking, hey,
and that's simple. Available. I mean, come on, alcohol websites do that, right? Before you log on, like Total Wine or some places, they go, are you over 18? The onus is on you.
And it
jerk,
fixes it, because all it goes into
is it should be 21 for Total Wine there.
Well, yeah.
Southbound.
21. So the point is, whatever. If something is adult on the site and you're watching something and you see something that's adult, you'd be a flag say, is this 18 or over plus? Yes. And to be user moderated, being upon, because you know what? People are going to be like, I don't want to see that right now. I'm trying to watch this. it's not safe for work type stuff, and it push it into the adult section. And if you get
Yep.
caught doing it a lot of times and you keep pushing it into the non-moderate sites, then you get your channel kicked off. There's really simple things to keep things inside of space without this high level of ridiculous level of curation, which is, essentially censorship on these things. And it's not because people should be inappropriate or saying evil things, right? Like legitimately evil things or hateful
These people don't
things.
care about
But
that.
we're
They only care
talking-
about that when it fits their
well,
agenda. They
Well,
actually don't
that's what I'm saying.
care about
But
those
we're talking
things.
about, well, and what we're saying, or inciting people to hurt each other. Let's say, people hurt each other. But we're talking about things that like companies, this got leaked. We're talking about something that actually happened. Hey, this event happened. And they're like, nope, can't talk about it. And you're like, what do you mean you can't talk? Like,
Yeah,
or
imagine being
even,
a
yeah,
or
we're
even
gonna copyright
worse.
strike you.
Well, I was gonna say, because to your point about saying, like, I think one of the worst thing about it is I think it's what we've kind of like, it kind of brings everything where we get together that we've been talking about is, there's no more the artists, the creators, no longer, as Southhound has said, it's like it's more about money than it is about delivering a product. And I know in prior videos how we talked about how more people nowadays, it's more about like saying like, well, I'm making this for me. I'm not making this for an audience. It's like you are selling a product. It is meant to be sold to an audience, which means it's a product that we should like. But then so it's like they don't care what they're making. They say that we don't give a crap if you like what we've made. But then when we try to have dialogue on social media, on places, and say, this wasn't right, me, the consumer, I as the consumer did not agree with this. I didn't like this product that was sold to me. And then we're being quieted. So it's like they get to sit in their own little chamber thinking that everything they do is right. Or whenever someone challenges them, then it goes, like you said, go up to Wojcicki and tell him to shut it up because I don't want to hear it.
It's because
so no one gets to then talk about. So there's no, they're not responsible and they're never held responsible because they're hidden away in their safe space. And then us,
Well,
the
in many ways,
consumer, never gets to say, look at them and say, you did not give me a product worth buying. The whole point is you're supposed to sell me something that's worth it, but you're not.
Well,
and I can't even complain to you and say it because then you put my complaint department over by the bathroom.
Right. Well, this is actually a positive sign in a lot of ways because, it really does go to showcase that those who are watchers on the wall and who do sound off the alarm for these things are noticed by these big companies, and they recognize that these people hold a lot of influence because they are genuine, and they recognize that they hold a lot of influence where people will start to look into these things and investigate these things. I think there used to be a time where people would consume things and they weren't really thinking about what they were consuming. But as people tend to get older and get a little more critically minded and get a little more thoughtful about stuff, they start to pay attention to what they're actually consuming. And they're recognizing that these platforms are being very, very influential and accessing these people very effectively. So where they might have lost, 10 to 15% of their of a fan base because they did something, now they're losing 40 and 50 and 60%. And they're recognizing, well, what is one of the most efficient and effective ways to do that? Of course, it's to censor information. And the harder you do it and the faster you do it, typically the more effectively it becomes. Sure, backlash, absolutely. But it's temporary.
Effect. Yeah. I mean, that's where it's
Well,
going to go.
There's no longer the wide-ranging word of mouth to get to know more people and more people and more people. The word of mouth is gone from the equation.
And I think the thing that's going to be interesting, we were talking about this on the phone, which I think is going to be the new challenge. It's why we do this now. It's just sharing our opinions. It's not saying we're always right. But it's insight the way we see it. Yes, Southhound thinks he's always right. But what it comes down to is,
that's how he's wrong.
In the past, you have box office numbers, right? You have numbers to go, okay, who saw this? It doesn't mean a movie's good, but it could be, but at least knew if it was successful financially. People watched it, put money into it. The problem now with all this streaming it's a problem with streaming in general, which obfuscates this material. And so you don't know what is the truth behind it. What is the people actually watching? You can, and the only gauge now is very subjective. We're talking this way. The problem is it's a very subjective gauge now because, okay, I can look at, Netflix made a claim and said, oh, this show did really, really, really good. This movie is the best thing we've ever seen. And you're like, I never heard of it. I've never seen anybody talk about it. I've never seen a thing about it. The Witcher, they said that when they said, oh, it was the most watched show we've had on our show ever on the streaming. I go, okay, I can believe that because there's 35 covers of the Witcher song. on my YouTube.
Right.
There's memes about it all over Facebook.
It's funny.
I actually just started replaying it too. The third Witcher.
The game, or and so I do know that the content people like, it did come into the pop culture for a little while. How long it lasts, we'll get into that, in the future episode of, franchises and ratings. I have the the actual active thing up there. I've lowered Doctor Who down to double down because earlier's conversation, and Star Wars as well now is just a straight down, because I honestly believe that what they're doing now, I don't think there's going to be any up for a long time.
Told you.
I don't think there's even, we were saying there could be like the dead cat bounce where it might go up for a bit, but honestly, I don't think
not anymore.
They have to do something. They said the only thing that's going to bring it up again will be if the second season of Mandalorian is so perfect that it
won't happen.
That it's amazing. But I have a feeling it's not going to be. But
but even if it was, then they'll have the same exact thing that they had right then. People will watch The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and then it ends again, and they go, okay, now there's nothing good to watch again on Disney Plus.
Well, there is
it's like, so that's the thing about it. It's like you can keep throwing one great franchise out there or one great series if you can make it, but there is no consistency.
Well, and that's
just mad you can't get Iron Will on DVD. That's what makes me angry. Man,
that movie's so good. So, but here's and that's also the problem too, is a lot of times when these franchises were created, essentially Star Wars made a multimedia empire by itself, right? It made Lucasfilm. Mm-hmm. It made billions of dollars for George Lucas, and probably millionaires on other people. Who knows how many millionaires it made? I don't know.
Sure.
But it made a lot of people really wealthy. The problem is that to a company like Disney, or any of these mega companies, Disney, who owns right now, so it's an example, is they just absorb that profit, right? A normal, if I say,
or losses.
But in the case of Disney, where it should have been, where if the 3 movies had, let's say, grossed, what you're saying is essentially,
$7.5 billion.
Yeah, $7 billion total, and it cost, let's say, $1 billion. Let's say even $2 billion to make, including marketing in those spaces, and then you lose a little bit. There still would have been a profit of $3 billion for these movies, probably. I'm just rounding numbers mentally with.
Sure. I know.
Right. You wouldn't walk away with $3 billion over, let's say, 6 years. That's so much money. A company or a small group like that, you walk away with that and you go, man, we just made a bunch of millionaires in our crew. We've propped these businesses up. We've paid for these people to make money for us. And now we can sell more, right? The IP,
the merchandising. Imagine the merchandising.
All that stuff. Licensing. The
merchandising. Where the real money from the movie is made.
Right? Oh, Spaceballs.
You know what?
Spaceballs, the flamethrower. The kids love this.
If they had done it well, and like you said, that made the movies and followed through what the original trilogies look like, you could have maybe seen your first $1 trillion merchandising over like a 20-year period. Why not?
Trillion? I don't.
I think you could have. Yeah.
Trillion.
Absolutely.
No, that's 100.
Yep.
That's 100. That's 1,000 billions.
You don't say. You'd already be 7 in. You'd already be 7 billions in for just stupid movies and all the spin-off shows and all the other things. They could have made this they could have made Star Wars the first $1 trillion.
Maybe
30, 40 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe
that's what I didn't say I didn't say in 6 years. I said over like 20, 30 years.
Maybe in that long. Okay. I can't say that in that long. They could. But that's the thing now is that, but see,
Star Wars has been around for 50 years.
Well, and that's what I'm getting.
Yeah. Well, also their big problem is they couldn't even.
Well, you're missing what I'm getting into now.
Half the stuff they try to re-merchandise though was repeat stuff. So it's like, like you get Anakin's lightsaber now, but they call it Rey's.
Oh, right. But see, what you're missing
is
new stuff. Right. But what you're missing in the new stuff is the problem is that to a company like Disney, making $1 billion in profit doesn't even phase them, right? Because they're borrowing $8 billion in debt right now. So, so the problem is when you have these megacorps, when they lose money at other places, like what's happening with the Disney parks, that's siphons money from all these divisions that should be making profit for them in a smaller thing. It is the problem with these mega corporations. It's why there's a company. They make tractors, and they were actually a bigger company, and they actually started splitting the company out to smaller sections because they realized it was more profitable to be smaller, because they're not, like I said, these huge companies can sometimes become so bloated inside of what they are. And so, and that's the reason why I don't support, because the biggest rumors was always like, is Apple going to buy Disney? Is Apple going to buy Sony? I'm
I
like,
hope
no,
not.
don't do it. Apple, do not
don't.
buy Disney.
I hope they don't.
I hope so too, because be your own entity. I think that they should just scrap Apple TV Plus. I think it's a waste of their money.
It's trash.
I think
Yeah,
it hasn't
I
taken
agree.
off. I think it's going to be the first service. They should just, they should have partnered with like Netflix hardcore and been like, hey, Netflix, let's have a promotional together and been best buddies, right?
But not merge.
Not merge.
Not
no.
merge.
High level.
Yeah.
No merging.
High level partnership.
But I think the problem, kind of like how Apple used to do with like what was the company they used to do a bunch of stuff with? Well, like Pixar, right? Apple and Pixar used to be super tight before Disney bought them.
Right.
I mean, they were always
Right.
Apple and Disney is super tight. That's why I think a lot of speculation comes from, since Steve Jobs was on the board, and actually Bob Iger was on the Apple board till they started doing the Disney Plus stuff because they felt it was competitive to Apple TV Plus, right?
Well, it's true. It
Yeah,
would
it
have been
is.
it would have been a conflict of interest. That was actually probably one of the most realistic, ethical things to do. So
Yeah, they knew they were going to get in trouble without doing that one. They're like, you're really going to do your own thing. But I mean, they're not even in competition. I mean, again, nothing on Apple TV has stood out to people on a higher level to be like, oh my God, that thing is freaking amazing. I mean, has anybody ever talked? I've never heard a person talk about Apple TV Plus shows in the wild.
other than it forced
Beyond-
into my phone feed, but other than that,
Oh, I did hate that. I will say, I hated when Apple was forcing like an ad on my phone about dying Disney Plus, and like stop, or Apple TV Plus. I'm like,
yeah,
no,
me too. I was like, knock it
no.
off, knock
That's-
it
I
off.
remember getting those.
Yeah, I got pinged a couple times. It was like a
Me
pop-up
too.
type thing. I was like,
And I was like, you better stop it.
I don't like that one. Unfortunately, that's.
I think that ticked off enough people. They're like, all right, backtrack.
Right. I mean, and I had to think it does, because I remember when, this is going back a few years, but I think in 2014, they gave everyone the YouTube album for free that came out that year.
Oh,
I
the
hated
YouTube.
it. And
I
it
thought
forced
I knew
it on
that's
your
where you were going.
iTunes.
And
Oh, I
they
hated
didn't
that.
They just gave it to you for free. They're like, here, this is a gift. You can watch.
You couldn't get rid of it.
Well, that's a
You
flaw
couldn't
on
delete
that
it.
part. But people had a
That's the thing,
conniption
yeah, you
on
couldn't
that. But I'm
delete
saying
it.
people had a conniption on that. Like, they had conniptions on it. And that was like someone getting you free. I got to imagine he'll be like, buy our service for $14 a month or whatever, or $15 a year or whatever.
Would be even more insulting.
And so I got to imagine people are like,
Yeah.
dude, that's not cool. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's not cool. I don't need
Not
another
cool.
subscription. And honestly, like I said, the one that's interesting to me, that'll be the most interesting one coming out here, is Warner HBO Max. I think that will be the one to watch right now.
I just don't
We'll
even know what they'd be
see.
producing. That would be interesting.
Well, we'll see. Well, again, it's a little bit the libraries, right? So, but what'll be interesting to see is if movies start going directly to paid. It's not pay-per-view, but it's paid.
Oh man, that would be
services.
terrible.
It's paid. It's kind of what they did with Trolls, or Trolls 2, where you know,
Right.
essentially it's $20 to watch it at home. And they made a decent amount of chunk of money on that. Now, granted, it's hard to know where that space is going to go, because how many movies would you just go, I'm not going to spend $20 on. I don't care enough to see it at home. If you don't care enough
Well-
to see it at theaters, because right, the theater
So I'm
experience.
saying, like, you're already spending $20 a seat in a theater. Now I'm going to spending $20 a seat at my house.
Well, no. See, it's even worse actually. What would happen was nothing would go to theater anymore, and the only way unlike what you can do now, right? Most people you can rent it 2, 3, 4 months, even sometimes when it's in theater still, and you could rent it off of your television for maybe $5, $6, $7, $8, depending how old it is. Now it'll be
Man, some even the newer
the
ones are like
only-
$4.
Yeah, but
Like some of the new
sometimes
stuff you
but
see, it's like
it depends on
renting
how
was like $3 or
depends on-
$4, even HD.
Okay, well, it depends how nice they are and how much people like them. But now imagine that you have to own every single service because they're only going to contract directly to whoever's willing to give them the big buck. And they're going to say, okay, it's only going to be on HBO Max and Disney, or it's only going to be on Netflix and Hulu, or whatever agreements they come to. Then you have to have those services just to watch something, and that is terrifying.
That's going to be bad because if you're spending hundreds of dollars to have every single streaming service just so you can watch whatever movie because it won't come in theaters anymore, people are going to get pissed off.
Here's the secondary problem.
I mean, that's
this
just
is my
simple.
actual bigger concern than that, which is, you ever see a movie in theaters, then when you see it on DVD, you go, that's different. You ever seen that?
Yeah,
in a movie?
right.
You ever seen that
Right.
experience on a movie, that you watch something in a movie in theaters, and then watch it later on DVD, and you go, wait, they changed something. And
Yeah, sure. The original Star Wars.
Well, okay.
Well, yeah, like
No,
theatrical
so here-
versions, and
but
then the
speaking of Star
theatrical
Wars,
version, and then what the
in Star
home movie
Wars,
versions,
when
right?
there was in Star Wars the second one, when they show Anakin's hand,
Star Wars,
that was
the second
cut off,
one.
Attack of the Clones. When they show
Oh, you mean when they
Anakin's-
digitally changed it again? Yeah, they changed
he
it
had
later in the
fat
DVD.
Sausage, it had the
Yeah,
sausage finger.
that's
Oh, that's
so
right,
funny
that's right, that's
because
right.
I still have that picture in my head.
Oh,
It
in
looked
my
like
brain. I
spoons
saw it
at
in
the edge of his
theaters.
finger.
It was
Yeah,
really
it was like
weird. They were like these
spoons.
giant
It was
sausages.
like-
They're like they look like sausages on his hand. You're like, what the what?
No, it was like spoons. It was like flat spoons. It was like I was
And
like,
then
what is this? It's
And then when
terrible.
it came out on DVD years later,
It was way
or
better.
Whenever I said they had fixed it and it made it like more like R2D2 style fingers type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like,
Yep.
wait, they changed it, and so that to me is an
Fact.
example. But now what you're gonna see happen, I think, unfortunately, and like I said, this is why go buy physical media now. Like honestly, it's one of those ones I'm like,
If it's
they give away
important enough to you.
stuff. Well, if it's good enough, right? But now, like, even like the anime shows I've started buying. Like I was like, oh man, it's on stream, man. I don't need to care. Now I have to start buying this stuff because
Seriously,
they're deleting
someone's
stuff,
going to come
editing
in there
stuff.
and expurgate it. Yep.
They're editing it. They're post now. They're changing things out. They're cutting things out. You're like, oh yeah. I'm not even a huge Simpsons fan, but it's bizarre to me. They're like, oh, we're gonna put the Simpsons library on here, except for the ones that we find controversial. And you're like, oh yeah, because the 1990s
Like
episodes of
50%.
Simpsons are
Well,
controversial.
shouldn't that be
Like,
every single one that has a poo now?
right?
So like the
As-
entire
Yeah,
series
yeah,
before
literally.
this last one.
Yes, they'll redub all of everything. They'll redub it.
Yeah.
Oh, they will. No,
Well, they'll just make him a white character. They'll just
10
erase the brown coloring from him.
10
Just be like,
10
his name's
years-
not Apu,
10 years from now,
something else.
they'll rewrite it. And that's what I'm saying is the problem with it is it's okay for things to change, but let's not pretend the things that happened before didn't happen. Like it's like trying to, you talk about rewriting stuff, or it's kind of the irony of, in Hollywood they're like, oh, we don't want to whitewash these characters because they're playing a character in like Africa or something. They're like, wait, why do we keep hiring white actors to play Africans in Africa? And you're like, well, that's a really valid point. Egyptians, right? When they did the Egyptian movie, that really was like kind of the start of it. When it was like,
Oh, you mean
literally, like Australian
was it
actors.
It was Exodus of Gods and Kings, and I think like Sigourney Weaver was like like Nefertiti, and you're like, the hell?
Yeah, they're like, wait, you couldn't even like hire like some like somewhat authentic like blonde hair, blue eyed guys. Like
you know what's funny about that
Like,
though?
It's
I
so
mean, how
bad.
come? I mean, they didn't have a problem in the 50s. Yul Brynner, he's dark and he's playing Pharaoh. I don't understand why there's a problem. 60 years later, why they can't even accomplish that task? It's so simple.
Well, the
Well,
difference,
yeah,
there
like you said, to
is-
actually
there
find
is
someone just for
some
the
level,
the
well, there
skin
is
color
some
to
level of
match.
well, there's some level of understanding, right? They're trying, okay, let's be authentic to this space. That's fine. Hire people that make sense in the thing. I don't agree with this hyper level of stuff where they're like, if you don't match
Oh,
the thing
sure.
exactly. But also, I will agree they actually did the work with the film. Like Charlton Heston at least looks like a darker, like he's like a blue. I think he's blue eyed, and he's the blue eyed Moses, where probably Moses was not blue eyed.
You can't even
Yeah,
tell
probably.
though. I mean, come on.
But
We can't
but-
talk about the quality of the. You
But I'm
can't
saying-
notice that stuff.
But I'm saying that the difference too is I forget where I was going with that. But the difference is now
Who knows?
you got so much stuff to go worry on. Just get to good writing.
How
Again,
about quality? Let's focus on quality writing and quality cinematography and quality stories before you guys get amped up
Well,
on
I would say in general,
whether that character was too white.
Well, here I'll say,
or
in
also
general,
quality actors. I mean, it's like I don't,
Well,
if
I
there
would
was
say-
well, no, because my point is, if there's a character who maybe isn't the nationality of the person they're supposed to play, but they are the best person for that role, then make him it. And I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, well, I'm doing a show about
I think
like,
that's
I'm doing it.
Yeah, I
That's-
would
If
say
I
you
think
were
that's
able to
dependent.
find the right person for it that acts it well, and maybe they don't fit perfectly,
depends on the story.
I
Okay,
would
here-
rather
here-
take acting talent than I would take, oh, well, they're supposed to be a certain shade of this, and this person was, but they're the crappiest actor that we
Well,
found there.
it depends what you're doing. You
Yes.
can't have Frederick Douglass played by Christian Bale.
But
He's
I'm not-
he's a good actor,
Okay,
but he's
did you
not
hear?
black.
Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said though? That I said someone who's close already.
Oh, well,
I'm
I
not
think
saying
I
that
think-
you
I
would
think that-
pick.
Well, then you've eliminated the issue.
I think you're missing. I think you're
No, because I'm saying there's people saying like,
Christopher,
oh, it's
Christopher, hold
Asian,
on.
then it has to be an Asian. Like, oh, it's Japanese, then you better have a Japanese person. It's like, okay, well maybe
Well,
there's a
here's-
Korean
no,
guy who's a way
here's the
better
di-
actor, but he's not
No.
Japanese.
Well, okay.
That's
I think-
stupid to me.
I think the thing
Talent
you're
is
talking
better
about
to me than fitting exactly your nationality.
Okay, chill. I think the difference you're talking about is historical accuracy versus a
That's funny.
a animated or not animated. There's historical accuracy, and then there is a story that's fiction. So, in the sense of
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. That's a good
I think
point.
because the difference is if you're doing an Egyptian story or a Japanese story, it makes sense to have Japanese actors or people that
course.
makes sense. Now, historically, Hollywood didn't do that because the theory in the past was, oh, people don't go out to see it, even though things like Jackie Chan were super popular for a very long time, and people.
Well,
I
or
grew up-
again, also again in the past, they didn't have as many actors. Like a good example of that is
that's probably debatable.
West Side Story, the musical. They're Puerto Ricans. None of those people who are the Puerto Ricans are Puerto Rican. They're all Italian
Speaking
because
of
there
the
wasn't
No.
Puerto Rican actors.
That's
I
not
don't
West Side
know
Story.
that's
Isn't
true.
that that's
No, it's
Guys
West
and
Side
Dolls,
Story.
isn't it?
It's
I thought it was
West
Guys and
Side
Dolls.
Story, Philip.
Well,
It's
see,
Which
that
one's the one?
they're
I want to
remaking
live
it
in
right now.
America. I want to live
West
in
Side Story.
America. Oh, is that West
West
Side
Side
Story?
Story.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Also, they're
fair enough.
remaking that. Who's going to watch that? Goodness gracious! Why would you remake it in the same?
Why
period
would
as-
you?
Maria.
Well, who's making it?
I
Like,
just
this is-
met
you
a
know, so
girl
like, you
named
know who's making it, right?
Maria.
Sure.
Steven Spielberg.
Are they? Really?
Joel.
Yeah, that's what's hilarious. He bailed on Indiana Jones 5 because he knows it's the
do
freaking
West Side
train.
It's gonna be a dumpster fire.
He walked in. I can imagine. Okay, I have. We talked this before. Steven Spielberg is historically one of the best directors of all time. He definitely has some
He's
of
a
the best
schmuck
movies.
who's lived on his coattails for too long.
Well, then let me finish. I will say his more recent stuff is not as strong. However, he is
That's
at
pretty
least been
mild.
around, so he's a professional. I would say he's a professional, right? You don't hear him running
Sure.
around bad mouthing people, being because there's a difference too,
Oh,
right? We're
yeah,
talking
that's
this
true.
kind
Surely
of
not
stuff.
on Twitter.
And there's a difference of people being, we're being very critiquey, and that's what we do. We're being critiquey. We're talking about, but there's a difference of being like,
Is that a word?
this movie sucks and we dislike this thing. But there's
just
also
said
a
it, didn't he?
difference that if you're in a professional space, you behave professional. If I was
Yeah.
working on a movie, if I was on a movie and I got hired and I had to go work with Ryan Johnson, I'm not going to walk up to him and spit in his face because that's not professional.
Last
That is
Jedi
not-
sucked.
well, and that's why you're not professional, Philip. I am professional in the space. So you have to, again, it's the professional
Yes.
difference. And Steven Spielberg,
I do it for the
guarantee-
fans. I do it for the people.
Okay. And I guarantee
So you'll get
Steven-
fired right after that, not be able to help him on his new movie because you had to
Right.
make your one dig in.
My point is, I guarantee
You really helped everyone there, Philip.
Right. I'm sure Steven Spielberg, let me finish. Steven Spielberg walked into Lucasfilm, this company that he helped create, huge part of, right? He walked
True.
in there and he sat in probably a couple meetings and went, oh my God,
Screw this.
this is
Yeah.
the most ridiculous
I'm not sticking my
cluster.
name to
Because
that.
I'm sure there's some really talented people that have been with Lucasfilm for years and they're probably in hell right now. Like, I honestly feel bad.
If they're even
there's a
still
huge-
there.
There's a huge difference between again, we talked this before, the above the line and below the line, right? There's the producers who run this stuff, the J.J. Abrams, the Kathleen Kennedys. These are the above the line people. They're the ones who freaking cause the chaos. There's
Yeah.
all these guys who think all these, DPs, the camera assistants, these guys who make no creative decisions, maybe some lighting decisions. I'm not going to take with, but they're not making the story decisions. They're not changing who the
Right.
characters are.
Sure.
Yes. Well, that's the difference. When you have a plan. The Lord of the Rings went, we're going to film all 3 movies in one setting. And they filmed it in 1 year. Did
God, they're
all the time
brilliant
together.
people.
And then
It's
went through
amazing.
and did all the post stuff. And then
Hats off to all of them for working as long and hard as they had
Oh,
to
yeah.
do for that.
You know,
Like,
you
I
compare
mean,
that to what's going on now in these movies. You look at all these franchises right now, and it's just straight up chaos. There's no leader. Like I said, that's the problem. I said you have the crazies running the castle right now, and I think that's the problem is that you don't have people who. First of all, I don't think you have people that care about the material,
yes.
and you have people who aren't very good at leadership. I think that's a huge part of it. You're seeing this in game studios. I mean, look at we talked about this recently. Anthem, reboot after reboot after reboot. Destiny, both reboot after reboot after reboot. You have, I think even the Last of Us 2 had a reboot in it. The
Sure might now.
Well, yeah. The oh no, Uncharted 4 had a massive
Yeah,
rebooting.
Uncharted.
Same people.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you
that's
know
right,
you
yeah.
have
Oh, it's gonna be
is
so
this
bad.
is a management
Oh.
thing where you have the people that keep coming in and wanting to change stuff and change stuff and change stuff and change stuff and tweak it and they have their ideas and then a focus group comes in and says this sucks and then they go okay we got to redo everything and there's times
Well, they say
that,
screw you guys.
well,
Yeah,
and
there's
there's
that. There's that
I think
answer
there's two
too.
different types of I think there's different types of focus groups, right? They have like the focus groups they trust. You know what I'm saying? They're like,
Oh, sure,
like
sure. Like,
Right.
you know, because again, the critique in art is a balance, right? I'll say if you ever people out there, if you ever go into the art space, do a class where people actually judge you and actually are honest to critique you because it is
Don't
a
do
great no do it. It's a great thing to have legitimate critique to your work and people be honest and be like, hey, this is where there's problems, this is where it's good. The problem is I think in a lot of these studios, you have a lot of yes people going, yes, 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 you're amazing. Let you do is the best thing ever to happen in the universe. And so I think their egos expand even larger than Southhound's. And what happens when that happens is
how
essentially
dare you?
A black hole. You know,
I've
when you
worked
expand
hard on this ego. Okay, no
Yeah.
one can have a bigger ego than me. Nobody.
and a black
Yeah,
hole
we
forms.
we
of
saw you
ideas.
there as Westfox was
Black
speaking.
hole.
You flexing your arms.
Yes.
Southhound.
So
Child.
you
He's like
start
sitting there
build-
like,
right. You start building.
Sorry,
these,
I can't see you do it.
yeah. Sorry. Let me see my string beans.
Actually, I was gonna say, oh my god, you look white. You need to get some sun.
I know. I'm so white. It's horrible.
She's been working in a desk
Look at
office.
this. You couldn't even see him. Look at this. Wait. Let me move.
Seriously.
Are you
Where's
sure
it
it's the
white?
wall or my
Oh my
hand?
God,
Can you
where'd
tell
you
if it's the wall
go?
or the hand?
Right?
Yeah.
There's just sleeves. There's just blue sleeves floating in there. Okay. But, oh, it's hilarious. But yeah, you know, the things that you're starting to deal with are these, you know, just lack of control of the franchises, lack of direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's going to change. You know, it's why I wish there was some new franchises coming out that I could be like, oh my gosh, there's something exciting to talk about. And it sucks being like, oh my God, it's another freaking terrible franchise decision. I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. You know, I want to be able to go like, oh, like this is Witcher. They said Witcher was great, but it's only one season so far. So, you know, it was 10 episodes, I think. And so it's like,
Right.
okay, cool. I enjoyed it, but it's not that like sustaining where you have 20 episodes of full thing, you know, or when you have multiple seasons. Again, you know, Doctor Who didn't have its current fan base. Well, okay, X fan base until, you know, I'd say until about season 3 is when it really took off in America and kind of created its following. So it takes a couple years for these shows to create that because it creates a story and you start falling in with it. You start learning the lore behind the story and you go, okay, I want to learn more about this. I want to learn more about what's happening in these things. And when you do that, when that happens, it becomes a lot more fun. And I don't know what shows are going to happen next with that because, you know, sorry, I was looking at some stream settings here. You know, there's who knows what the next show is going to be because I don't see that next forerunner, right? Like I say the closest thing is the Orville, but the only thing that the Orville doesn't have that it might have in the long run, right? We'll see how long the legs have, but it doesn't have that like new fresh franchise, right? Even though it's because it is a Star Trek spin-off.
Orville
type
survives
show.
because it is people's alternative to watching crappy Star Trek.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of where he does get to hang it. And if Star Trek was actually to come back to be something good, I wouldn't see Orville continuing on. You know what I mean? So it's like it isn't fresh enough to be something new. It's more of just it's a placeholder because it's like I can't watch any good Star Trek, so I'll watch Orville.
It's not like a Firefly.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something that when that happened, we're like, oh, this is, you know, obviously that didn't end up working for him, but I think that show came out now, it probably would do really well.
Yeah.
You know, I think I guess my final takeaway would be we're not going to see. I think it's sadly we're not going to see a change in the media sphere until the business structures of how they hire and pay and compensate people change. Because we use that term, right? That the cliche that's kind of become a cliche: go woke, go broke. But the problem is, it's not the it's not the creators that go broke. It's the IP owners. You know, again, they have no stock in what they're creating, so they can continue pushing their agenda as long as they're paid because they're going to continue to get paid. The only way to really modify that and change that is going to be on the business side, where it says, okay, we may pay you something, but if you are not successful in A, B, and C, or building this type of market or doing this type of thing or getting this kind of profit, then you're not going to get paid anymore and we're not going to continue with you. It needs to be based on actual achievement, and that clearly is not the case. There is no merit-based structure for payment there. That's why a J.J. Abrams can just jump from one studio to the next and be offered $500 million, even though you look at his track record and what he produces is nothing that has any longevity. There's no legs to it. There's no substance to it. It maybe is a flash in the pan, and then he leaves as quickly as he can because anyone who follows behind that has to kind of pick up the pieces and is never able to actually successfully rekindle it back. I mean, the fact that they brought Star Trek back in 2009 and it disappeared like that, and same thing with Star Wars.
Yeah, because you're not, when your goal is to capture, it's that sand metaphor, right? The more you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The more fans they try to capture, instead of just being like, you know what? Our show will always make, let's say a fan base of 10 million people, right? Like, you know what? Star Trek has a 10 million fan base person audience. And they're like, no, we need 400 million fans. We need all the fans. And you're like, well, they'll never have all the fans because it is a niche show, right? It's okay to have niche shows. Now, granted, it's how much you spend on these shows, right? Too, when you're like, well, we want a niche show. You could say that let's say the SJW type shows are niche shows, but they don't make money because no one watches them. And you're like, okay, look at Batwoman, where they lost 80% of their audience since it started, or
it's still running.
Yeah, right. Doctor Who, which lost 70% of its audience, from before, and
99.9.
Yeah, it's going to lose even more, I think.
No, there's still people who are still an absurd amount of people who still watch it. I think around 35 to 40% of the original number. I can't believe it. I mean, I just can't believe that people
That's fake numbers from BBC.
Sit for that.
That's fake numbers from BBC. I mean, they probably just turn on like their whole newsroom or the local airport like CNN does for it. And they're like, there's enough people watching CNN.
There's enough podcasts out there defending this stuff. There's enough shill-tastic individuals out there who
sometimes it's hard to know because like are those many or are those just the loudest and have the platform that are being let out?
Before I go down that road, I would say the difference is look at America as a better example because the UK has less shows they watch, in the sense of it.
They need something to watch,
right. Because spend their time on. Look at the Antique Roadshow was doing better than Doctor Who. People were turning off Doctor Who to watch the Antique Roadshow type stuff. I mean, that's a difference.
I would too.
And Home and Garden.
But I mean, Doctor Who's ratings in America were like, they were like six figures. They were under 1 million. Like you're talking super low numbers. Where this show, in its peak, I think was at least a couple million. And granted, Doctor Who is a niche show. I get it. It's a niche show. Not everyone's gonna like Doctor Who. It's quirky, B-level sci-fi with A+ when it's in its A game, A+ writing in its prime with A to A+ actors who do really good job. Well, let's say B to A. I think David Tennant was
Looking at you, Eccleston.
Yeah, I don't think Eccleston had enough time to shine for the character, to be honest, and he was the most campy of the season, so I think it's hardest to say. But I think
his was the most generic British humor.
Yeah, but I think that
that was that very strong British humor kind of coming over
for it. And I think Matt Smith grew into it so good because when I remember when Matt Smith came in, and you're like, oh my god. And then Capaldi, like,
look at that six head, look at that forehead. Oh my gosh,
Capaldi come in, and you're like, oh my god, I got to deal with this new guy. Let's see how we like him. And then you're like, oh, I kind of like Capaldi, but the writing is horrendous,
so bad.
And then it moved into the current incarnation where you're like, oh, she's not very good, but also the writing's even
the 13,000th Doctor.
The writing's even worse than the the Capaldi era. Like the writing,
which is amazing.
The Capaldi era writing looks like Shakespeare compared to
Pulitzer Prize winning, whatever you want to call it. As compared to the stuff that's being produced now.
And so that's what's crazy to me is so like I said, these shows have fallen down so far in a lot of spaces that you're like, what? Is it even possible to fall this far? And you're like, well, yep, it is because we've seen it and it continues to happen.
And there are 2 double arrows to prove it. That's why.
You can't continue to you can't. Okay, I mean, I can't stop.
You can do whatever you want.
I can.
You're right.
It's their property to do if you want, but you can't sit there and pretend what happened in the past didn't happen against what can. It's a reason canon exists, right? If someone says, oh, we're going to, which will probably happen, but they're going to be like, oh, Revan isn't a real character. We're going to rewrite Revan to be whatever Revan is for we want it to be to fit our agenda. You go, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to ignore that internally, because the original Knights of the Republic video game does a great job with character arc. In fact, we were just watching, my wife and me were just watching Count of Monte Cristo, and there's this thing called a training arc in the story, and it's essentially half the movie. And
Right.
you literally start out with this egotistical, not ego, naive.
Was this the Wishbone version or the actual one?
No, this was the actual one with Guy Pearce.
I love the Wishbone version.
The Wishbone, right? That's so good. No, this was the original one, and you start out with
And
this
the
guy.
Time Machine version that they did too.
You start out with this guy who is
Monkeys.
an intelligent but naive, overly trusting simpleton, right? With
Seriously.
with him, he's not Edmond Dantes. He's not a bag. He's not super smart. He just is a honest, has integrity. He's naive. He's kind of the Luke Skywalker, right? Type thing. And he gets hyper betrayed, and then he luckily falls into a place where he gets trained by essentially a master at everything, a scholar, a soldier, tinker, doctor, spy, who teaches him
Warrior
everything.
poet, it would be the term we'd use here today.
Yes, and he sharpens that dull blade of his as a mind and turns him into essentially a hyper weapon of revenge in the most perfect revenge plot ever put to literature.
Right.
Because
I love
usually,
Count of Monte Cristo.
usually revenge plots turn into this type thing, right?
Right.
Again, that's why the Last of Us story most of us don't like. Isn't because of other things, but because it's a revenge plot. Revenge plots are boring. Revenge is
Usually.
generally a boring topic because I want revenge. I've been watching and even actually other things to talk about too. Just been watching almost done with this Assassination Classroom, and in season 2 there's without giving spoilers for the show, there is characters who essentially get put on a revenge path and they burn out. Essentially, what happens is they're put on a path of hate and revenge, and we must burn these people alive type mentality, and they burn out because it's not a sustainable emotion. Because it is an emotion, right? It's an act. There's an action to it, but it's not sustainable. I mean, it burns hot and bright, right? Your soul. It's not something that's good for your healthy for your mind, your body, your soul, and so. As a
It's
viewer,
lighting gunpowder. It's up and it's out quick. It's
so as a
explosive.
viewer,
it's quick and it's.
because again, I think the reason Count of Monte Cristo does such a good job with it, it's because not the focus of the story until the end, right? It's the last arc of the story where it goes from this like dealing with the suffering, dealing with being betrayed. It's our training arc in the story. Him learning all this stuff that he needs to learn out, and then he gives the tools to essentially refix his life back to where it should be, essentially. And in the end,
because he wasn't.
He goes higher.
There is
He was an
there is
aristocrat.
another story. There is another story that does revenge well.
Inigo Montoya, you kill my father.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Princess Bride. Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah,
that was
of
my
course.
choice. Yeah.
That's the moment we talked about revenge arcs. I was like, oh yeah, because it's so super funny too. He goes at the end, right? He's like, I've been looking for revenge for so long. I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do.
He's like,
now.
have you ever thought about being a pirate? He's like, yes, yeah.
He's like, just retire after 5 years and just pretend that you're moving on the name.
Yeah. Oh, you mean I could be
Exactly.
the Dread Pirate Roberts now? Yeah.
Right? He's like, yeah, it's brilliant, right? It's perfect.
So yeah, I mean that movie does good, but yeah. So what's the future of these industries? And I really don't know what the future is going to be on a lot of these things. Again, I don't see.
They're gonna stay stagnant and crap.
Yeah.
Because I think sadly the thing is worse is I think that Southbound kind of put it on there a little bit too. The only way I see these people changing is if honestly they went into ruin. There was some financial bottom. And I don't see these places ever getting to there, even as much as they screw up, just because.
Well,
I would love it. Because like I said, certain places, like I would love for Disney to finally just hit rock bottom and they go, crap, we actually have to fix ourselves and rechange things and change our entire thing. But
yeah.
I just don't see that happening. Anytime soon. I don't see that happening in the next
with what's
decade.
happening now, I actually
Truly.
what's happening now, I think that's shifted it. Again, money it's so hard to predict because who would have expected I was telling Philip before where Viacom bought Paramount for more money than Paramount's or Viacom's even worth now.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
amazing.
you have these organizations that they can bottom out. The problem is when they're not planned well. Again, management, right? These guys make hundreds of millions of dollars a year and they run these companies to the ground because they hunt after infinite money, right? It's not capitalism, it's the corporatism. That's in
It's
fact
deadism.
where it has no moral to it, but also it's looking for infinite profit, right? It's a video game. It's the same. The best example is the video game industry, right? They hide under the radar
Right.
so bad where they run around and like, we make no money, and you're like, you guys make more than the film and TV industry combined. I think is what the
You're
number
right.
is. And
Oh,
they act
sure.
like they're these poor little franchises. Poor little us. We make no money. No, and behind the curtain, there's so much money they don't even know what to do with it. But they pretend they make no money. I mean, that's like Destiny, right? People run around going, "Oh, Destiny needs the money for development because they can't hire anybody because they're so poor." $300 million they made last year on microtransaction alone, and you're like,
Right.
wait.
Well, I mean,
Like, where did that
even at
money
the simple-
go?
I mean, even at the simplest sense, I find it hard when you can say, when a video game usually sells for about 60, or as we spoke before, like 60 to 120, depending on which version. If you're getting the deluxe or gold version, most movies are about 20 when they come out. 20, 25 now is what we kind of see for it. Just
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not even, just even that simple metric to go, you guys aren't making
You know-
that much money. I find that hard
You
to
know-
believe when your things are like 3 times as expensive to buy that compared to buying it on DVD, a movie. And you're telling me you're not making money?
Good dancers and sugar are expensive, baby. It takes a lot of money.
So I will just because we'll start wrapping up here. Is there anything movie wise that you guys are looking forward to right now, or like TV show wise? What's coming out that you guys are
Forward
interested in?
to.
Anything you guys looking forward to?
No, I mean, to be honest, I haven't really paid a lot of attention. I finally saw Ford versus Ferrari. I thoroughly
How was
enjoyed
that?
the movie.
Okay,
I thought
I need to
that was
watch
good. It's worth it. I mean, we've already seen the Top Gear rundown before, right? And we've already kind of about
Yeah,
the
we
history
did.
of it. But I
Top
think
Gear's- right.
Right.
but I think they did an excellent job to really humanize the interaction. I thought they did a good job. Christian Bale, not a huge fan of his, but he's probably one of the best actors that are in Hollywood. He puts himself in a role and he does it.
Oh, he's good. No, he's good. He's a very
he gets her
character
done.
actor. Yeah.
Yeah, he does it. But as for anything new coming out, I mean, most of my enjoy I get out of science fiction. There's nothing worthwhile. Star Wars is dead to me. Most of the movies that come out are rated R, horror kind of stuff, and I'm not really interested in that stuff ever.
Yeah,
I don't know. Are there any good? I mean, I stopped watching Marvel like 5 years ago. There's really nothing in the sphere that. I mean, there's not like as far as I'm aware, there's not like an Inception coming out. There's not something that's that's a one-off that may be something entertaining.
The only one I think that could be is it actually
Revenant? That one? Something like that?
no.
That already came out.
No, it's the
Oh, did it?
one where the time one.
Yeah,
What's
it's like 2 years ago.
the time one with
Well,
No, it's something
Leonardo
coming out
DiCaprio?
soon. You're wrong.
No,
You
Well,
Is it
Revenant
Revenant?
was the one. Revenant's the one that's with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he has a half Indian son,
Oh yeah, that's an old one. That's
and he gets attacked by the bear. That's
years
Revenant.
ago.
So.
okay. Well, whatever's coming out that sounds like Revenant.
Tenet.
Tenant.
Tenet comes out, and
Close.
that is actually
Yeah, you're right.
Christopher Nolan.
Sorry, I have to look. I'm looking at you on
Yeah,
the
that is
camera, but
Nolan.
then I'm looking the wrong way.
and
So
that's
hold on, I
supposed to
gotta
come
look
out
this way.
Right.
and theoretically in July 17th. It is a big budget, 200 million.
I don't know what
budget.
it's about. I just a lot of the people that I listen to every once in a while and follow have talked about looking at the trailers and I'm like, wow, it's amazing, but I have no idea what it's about.
Yeah, the trailer to me obviously there's some level of like time travel going on in it or something
Could have
because
done with time
you-
travel.
you see, or not so much time travel, but like reversing time. Think like video game time changing. If that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Like Prince of
Okay.
Persia.
Yeah, it kind of has a Prince of Persia, not the movie, but the actual video game. Like you can
Right.
reverse
Application
time.
to
Oh,
it.
not the Jake Gyllenhaal one. Oh,
Because
Stop
in
it.
the trailer they show the guy, the main lead guy, like essentially interacting with stuff as it's traveling through time backwards. Like he's like, oh, these guys got knocked out in 10 minutes from now type thing, right? And they're already knocked out, but then he puts booby traps up to like knock them out from the future type thing. So it is very much the Inception. I would from what I
That's
can
probably the only
glean
one
in the trailers.
that I would be
It
interested
does
in.
have kind of an Inception, but with time travel type paradoxy type thing. Now, granted, time travel is a tricky topic, and I think that generally time travel is not done very good. Even Doctor Who is not perfectly done time travel. It just does it fun because it doesn't try that hard in the sense of over trying to kill itself.
Right.
yeah.
Well, I'll give Nolan credit. He did do Interstellar, and I think he did do a pretty good job in investing in research and trying to understand the principles that were being involved in that. Granted, many of these things are still hypothetical. They're actually not things we've ever tested. So you're basing a lot of these things off of what our hypothetical framework of the world looks like.
Tried.
But given that understanding, I think he did a great job. So if anyone was to do a movie on time
with a bad payoff.
I would. Terrible payoff. But it would be if he was, if it is about
slow.
time,
I'll say slow
he's
movie.
probably
it's a slow movie.
It's true. Yeah. Although in fairness, I know a lot of people don't like it. That's probably one of Hans Zimmer's best compositions. I know people get really worked up with the organ thing, but he stepped out of his zone that he's been in for like 15 years of Pirates of the Caribbean / Gladiator music.
It's iconic to the movie, right? Like it's one of those ones that it fits for the movie because it's this weird tonal to it. I don't have a problem with the score. It fits the movie. Again, I think the acting is solid in the movie. It's just one of those ones that's such a slow burn. Like it's a modern slow burn with, like I said, it's not the worst payoff, but it's one of those ones where
it wasn't brilliant. It wasn't great.
It's kind of like, what's the one? Contact. It has a kind of a Contact vibe to it, where the end of the movie kind of like, oh, we don't know what happened. You know, you're like, oh wait, is the future this? At least on this one, they showed them off world and him living on the planet, or like the little like spaceship alive on it, which is nice because how many movies? You know, the only thing on Inception I dislike was the ending of Inception. Was the only thing critique I have on it was the with the
was he or is he? Is he or isn't he? And you're like, screw you.
And it's not even his totem, so it doesn't matter. That's the biggest thing. It's not his totem. So whatever, like anyone even says like, well, the totem's spinning. That's not his totem. That was his wife's totem. His totem was the ring. His always the ring that he wears on his hand.
Yep, that's true.
So everyone even looking at the spinning totem is already looking in the wrong direction.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories. Anyway, there's a lot of theories in that movie, but it falls into the.
What's my point? If it is about time, Nolan, I think, would be if it is about this time, this kind of thing, he'll probably do as good of a job as we've probably likely seen to do something solid.
He actually likes to research it and tries to pull from, like you said, even if it's just theory that's in the universe, at least it's theory from the universe and not just pulling out of nowhere and going, this is time travel.
I think Nolan is still one of the
Marvel,
like I said, best directors out there. I think they were talking about doing a Sam Raimi something, and I think he's pretty good. I think the first two Spider-Mans he did are really good. I still like those.
Number 1 and 2 are great.
I mean, Green Goblin and Doc Ock, and those two are great. It's just Venom 3 was horrible.
Yeah. So, those are, that's the thing is like, cringiest. I remember in the theater watching that third one. I was so excited.
I felt so awkward. So like I wanted to walk out.
It was embarrassed.
I sat in my seat and was like, in like shame. I was like in shame being there. I think the only movie that did that to me, it was actually Last Jedi with the Mary Poppins scene. I think made me cringe in my seat a little bit too. That scene was just.
I felt awkward when Luke was spraying green milk from a creature's uterus or tits.
Yeah, that didn't. I mean, that was just like at that point in the movie.
That was just so. You're just I don't know. I was more like
stop it.
When that happened, the movie to me.
Especially then the thing does this little. Like thanks.
No, you know what makes that scene better? No, what makes that Westfox and I have discussed this before. What makes that scene great, the milking thing, is the B-roll that you see on the DVDs. No, it's the B-roll on the DVDs where Mark Hamill's doing it, and he's like, yeah, like that, Ryan Johnson, you like it like that? Yeah, I mean, he's like making it so ridiculously perverse, and then Ryan Johnson's like, I see what you're doing there. You know what? We're gonna put that one in. I just 4D that. I'm putting that one in.
Hamill, and I think Mark Hamill internally hates that guy so much.
So much.
Just everything he said, everything he despises that man as a director. I don't know if he thinks him as a human being because I know from a professional level, Ryan Johnson's a troll. Like seriously, he's a troll. He's a troll.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he's a legit troll.
He's a troll. He knows he's a troll. It's his goal to be a troll.
Even looks like one.
That's his stick. His stick is being a troll. He knows it. He likes it. Fine, you're a troll. Just he acknowledges it. People have to acknowledge he's a troll.
True.
But as a human, I don't know what he's like. Now, granted, when you troll everyone this hard, I have to imagine on a personal level, he's not the most enjoyable.
You're a terrible person to be around. Yeah,
I assume he's probably someone with a Napoleon like type syndrome,
Something.
Napoleonic
So-
syndrome. That's like, you know what? He probably has no control anywhere else.
I guess I don't know what it is,
Right.
but yes.
And
So-
for him, he's just like, if I can get on Twitter and call you a man baby, then that's where I have the power. And you're like, okay, you're pathetic.
Right? I know. Oh, he'll get mad on stuff on Twitter. You're like, dude, just.
Well,
just let
we
Twitter
have
be.
risen a generation of keyboard warriors, and now they're in our media. So I guess that's kind of on us to put up with.
Right? We have to learn how to be smart, but
Break
don't
the
feed the
cycle.
don't feed the trolls. Don't feed the
Don't
trolls.
feed
Everyone,
the-
don't feed the trolls.
They're like gremlins.
Especially
Don't
after
feed them
midnight.
after midnight.
Don't
do
no,
it.
for real. That's like the I think it was
It's rule number one.
How I Met Your Mother, right? When he's like nothing's good happens.
Nothing good happens
3
after
a.m.
midnight. Yeah,
Nothing-
or 2 a.m. or something like
I
that.
think
Or
it was 2
3
a.m.
a.m. or something
I
like
think it's
that.
2 a.m.
2 a.m. And I feel like that's like Twitter.
2 a.m. or
Nothing
3
happens-
a.m.
Nothing good happens on Twitter after 10 p.m. And you're like,
Yeah, like period.
Nothing good happens on Twitter ever.
Right.
Pretty
Well,
much.
I'm going to scoot if we're not closing up shop here because I got some
No,
pulled
we'll
pork
wrap
waiting
up.
for me.
So, thank you everyone joining us today. You have an.
I thought we had to
excellent
have viewers before we could do live streams. Is that not true?
No, I can do a live stream. I just can't do any monetized ones, or I can't do certain things with them. So that's why we're testing our first one. Thank you for joining us for
Gotcha.
our first live stream, testing this
Can
out.
people
Hope you
chat with
enjoy-
us
Yeah, they can.
if they?
If they were,
Okay.
yeah. If so,
Did-
we had anybody on here, they could chat with us. But yes, they can chat with us.
So next time we'll just start calling them out. Hey, person just commented on this. What are you talking about?
Actually, in fairness, when it's
Join us.
small and people are actually interacting, it probably would be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that's why I hope
Oh,
we
yeah,
can get
for
more
sure.
people on here. Like I said, it is a nice level. You can talk to people and stuff like that. So
If anyone
Um,
ever wants to chat about Philip's big ego, please come on in.
Yep.
We'll enjoy
So-
it. We will agree with you 100%.
thank you for joining us.
If you
today,
could just
and-
defend your part better.
All right, we'll see you next time before it keeps going.
Hey, don't steal my point.